Today, we're looking at a blue ink by KWZ, their Iron Gall Blue number 2. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, there's timestamps in the description down below, so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram. And if you're new here, I do fountain pen ink reviews every single day, so I would invite you to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then inked up this Fountain Pen Revolution Himalaya with a flex nib, wrote with it for a day, and used it to take the notes for this video. I always standardize some of my writing samples by using Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper, although I do use more papers, and some of those will be seen later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X 450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X 750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. You do see some shading because you see tone variations going on here. The extra fine is darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 10 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, unknown time to dry. For some reason I didn't write it down, so it wasn't a part of my average. The scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we didn't get it. Tomoe River. No bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It has some shading because you see some color variations here. Extra fine is darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 19 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen. What the hell? That's me going, I don't know why I couldn't write. 43, no shading. 43 seconds to dry. Just wow, I was shocked by that one. The scrubby for both shows us no color variation, and we didn't get any. And Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. We do see shading in that there's color variations within the writing. The extra fine is a little bit darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, peppering of shading. Peppering being just some darker spots throughout. 13 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, with no feather, spread, halo sheen, and no shade, 20 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine, far left to far right, does show color variation. That is the peppering, like on the letter K, like on the letter B. Medium shows none, and we got none. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see this blue that's pushing its way up, but interesting, it's almost like a dirty blue in the middle. And then it pushes up, and we see a little bit of this off-white that we saw in the Iron Gall 1, and a darker line across the top. Now the one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And that blue line is very much there and getting into the filter paper quite quickly. And again, it pushes up, it gets light, and we see this dirtier blue. I don't know how else to describe that. But then we see that off-white and that very dark tone at the top again. Very interesting. This one I let dry for 24 hours before I dunk it into water. That line is becoming more there, more permanent. We see less of that dirty blue area, a lot less of the blue move, and that off-white color at the top, similar to the Iron Gall Blue 1. Here I let it dry for 72 hours before I dunk it into water. And there is a very blue line on the bottom, less of that dirty blue moving up, and still very obvious that off-white tone at the top. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page and how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I feel safe using this in a note-taking situation if I want to highlight because it's really got very little effect.
Little bit of movement on the lowercase h, but not much. Water moved only the darkest tones but left a lot behind. But all I needed to get this out of my pen was water. Pen flesh did break up a little bit more than the water did. But there's a lot of this gray left in the bottom. I didn't need pen flush. 1/3 bleach solution does completely remove it from the page. Discolors the paper a little bit. But again, I didn't need more than water.
For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with a realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. I'm also linking a video that shows how I do my testing and my calculations.
KWZ's Iron Gall Blue number 2 has a viscosity of 2.92, making it just a little bit drier than normal.
To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples, and for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with a realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds.
KWZ's Iron Gall Blue number 2 has an average dry time of 21 seconds, putting it just on the edge of normal, but still normal. Instead of finding inks that look like KWZ's Iron Gall Blue number 2, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. And I wanted a nice red and chose Diamine's Poppy Red.
The second writing sample is done on black and red Franklin Christoph and Limone paper.
Here we're looking at black and red notebooks. Now we get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shading. The extra fine is slightly darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 7 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 9 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we didn't get it. How about Franklin Christoph paper? Well, no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is slightly darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. It's got peppering of shading throughout, like the K in quick, the B in brown, the AZ in lazy. 7 seconds to dry. Medium is much darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 10 seconds to dry. The scrubby for the extra fine, far left to far right, shows some color variation. That's our peppering. The medium shows none, and we got none. Last up, Limone paper. With no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 had no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. Extra fine is just a little lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 8 seconds to dry. Medium is significantly darker than everything on the page with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 11 seconds to dry. Scrubby of the extra fine shows a little bit of color variation left to right, but we didn't get it. The medium shows none, and we got none, and that is all that I have for the writing sample.
So what do I think of KWZ's Iron Gall Blue number 2? It shows a lot more blue than we got in their Iron Gall Blue number 1. It's much more pleasing to look at, but as a color, it looks more like a blue-black to me than it does as a blue. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? A wet pen is going to make it too dark for me to really appreciate it as a blue, but a medium flow pen will tone it back just enough to really show off the blue that it does have. I put out a new ink review every single day, so that if you're not already subscribed, I'm going to remind you, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks for watching.